I so I left when I left high school. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was still still playing soccer at home in Scotland, but it wasn't. I wouldn't really consider it professional. The NCAA would determine it. It was determined as being amateurism, which is fine. And then so I was there. I was out of education for a year. That was my gap year technically, and then I went back to college at home, which is not. It's somewhat similar to JUCO here, but not really JUCO here. It probably has more links to college in Canada than it does to college in America, like the differentiation between college and university. So then when I came to the States, I would have been 20, and I came over and went to an NAIA school, which you also went to, and we both went there at the same time. And as a goalkeeper, was promised there was going to be a goalkeeper coach. The same things here. There was going to be a goalkeeper coach. It was in St. Louis. It was all this stuff, and I think I was very naive at the time. I'd never been to America before that, and when I arrived, like it's not in St. Louis. It was like the middle of northeast Missouri. The goalkeeper coach was a guy that had gone missing, and nobody had seen him for like month before preseason, and it was just it wasn't. I try use the correct language. It wasn't the greatest experience. So and this was naive of me at the time. Before we played our first conference game, I was actually had my permissions to speak from the athletic director, and was looking to transfer. So I was actually trying to transfer by Christmas, to be honest, but it didn't really work out. So yeah, I got my permission to speak, and then it was kind of football wise, it was a very miserable experience. I almost quit football, to be honest, quit soccer, and very very close to leaving the States and going home, and then I ended up visiting 2 or 3 Division 2 schools, and one of the got offered scholarships at 2 of them, or decent scholarships at 2 of them. One wasn't a great one, 2 of them was pretty good, and then one was worth taking, so we took that. And that's kind of when my eligibility stuff really started to get a bit messy. So in terms of transferring, it was considered a 4-4, which in your first 4-4 is completely fine, or that's what I read it as, and that's what most people's interpretation would have been as. However, I was just like kind of on like a waiting list from the NCAA. I mean, I filed everything, and all compliance stuff would have been like February, and I was still at home in Scotland in July, kind of waiting on stuff. The problem being that I would have been deemed as going from a 4. I deemed it as I went from a 2-4 to a 4-4, whereas the eligibility officer at the school I was going to, who was not my favourite person, deemed that when I was in Scotland, it's almost technical college, it was deemed as a 4-year program. However, it was like a 1-year work program. So it really screwed me over. So the coach was like, "Look, we're gonna try and figure it out, but we'll honour your scholarship, all that stuff." Got to the new Division 2 that I was going to, and then all of a sudden became ineligible, and just sat a year, and it was miserable. Yeah. Miserable. Like, it's a very, like, as 20, 21 years old, just moved to the second place in the States within a year, and you get pretty isolated pretty quickly. I think the NCAA talk a lot about student health and student mental health. Like, at that time, I would, like, on a game day, I couldn't go into the locker room at certain points. I wasn't allowed to sit on the bench. Like, it's very isolating, and it can be very tough on your mental health. Like, I couldn't travel with the team. If there was, I think there was only one trip I could really go to that was drivable, and you'd have to drive and pay your own way, and it was really, really, really miserable. So yeah, eventually became eligible by my junior year. So played my junior year, played my senior year. at Division One level, like it definitely amps up. There's multiple. There's an office. It's not just one person, and it can start to be a bit trickier. You're looking at a lot of fifth year transfers this year, grad school transfers. Um, we've got one kid that's ineligible at the moment because he is a Chicago kid, but like went to um, took a gap year and trained out in Ukraine, and then during and strictly training in Ukraine, but like the war started, so trying to get him a waiver. You're looking at some pretty difficult waivers there. So yeah, at this level, it can be frustrating because it's a lot of it is up to an eligibility officer's discretion, and that discretion, there's some schools where you're like, look, they're just pushing the ball out here, like they're going with it, and they're probably doing some sneaky stuff, but they're somehow getting away with it. And then there's other places where you're like, we're being really, really strict here, and we feel like we're getting the short end of the stick because we're not really pushing the ball out, trying to get guys eligible. So it can be really, really frustrating. And again, it's tough for these guys that are ineligible because at the grand scheme of things, they're 18, 19-year-old kids who came to play college sports, and now they're they can't.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, and it's really isolating for them. So it can be a really, really tough space. For me, and in terms of like, it could be transfers, it could be anything. Most of the NCAA infrastructure is designed around men's basketball, men's football, and for a lot of the other sports, it just doesn't help. Like men's soccer, women's soccer in particular, it just doesn't help. I get the idea of, like, you don't want some big powerhouse to just go and pick everybody's players. 100% understand that. But the thing is, you just end up penalising student athletes. And I think we want to be honest to young people, and if they come in and they're not going to play, or their scholarship's going to, or whatever is going to happen, they should have the freedom to leave. If they go in and the school's wrong for them, whether that academic, then it comes down to an academic waiver, and that can get denied. Like, look, this could be completely wrong for them. If they've come straight from high school or whatever, and they realize, look, I don't like this program. The program I want to be in is in here. Whether it's soccer's helping it or soccer's not helping it, they should have that freedom and flexibility to go and find something better for themselves. And we're really just penalising the kids. Like, we're not. There's no benefit. We're not really benefiting. We're just penalising the student athlete. So no, I think it's very, very frustrating. I think the NCAA are not the are. I detest them. I truly detest them on a personal level and a professional level, because they're just so difficult to deal with. Um, and yeah, we really are, penalising student athletes, whether that's